First question I want to ask, is I think as happens all the time in these situations, all the cameras are there the first couple weeks, and then people forget. So I'm curious, what is the situation there now for those who survived Helene? What are the circumstances people are living in? Is the recovery in progress? What's going on?
So yeah, it's still a progress. It's been a progress since day one, honestly. What we're seeing out in the hotels are people still getting kicked out. We did that protest and we got that initial extension through the 14th, and then they did it another extension through, I believe, the 30th or 25th, which is coming up actually in the next couple of days. But people are still being kicked out between then, and they're still being thrown out in the streets homeless with nowhere to go. As far as rebuilding, I really can't honestly speak on anything because I've not seen a whole lot of rebuilding. I've seen a lot of people coming in from out of town, like the Amish. They came in and built like 100 tiny homes. But as far as rebuilding anything, I've not seen anything started yet. And then they said that they had the extensions going on through May 30th, I believe, or February. I've heard two different times, either May 30th or February 7th. And most of the people that we've talked to have not been extended at all. Like their day is coming up in the next few days. So I honestly don't know what FEMA is doing or what anyone's doing as far as these extensions. But I do know it's cold outside, and there's a lot of elderly and disabled people that are fixing to be homeless because of lack of resources, I guess. I don't really know what to blame that on.
It's really unbelievable to just see this horrific hurricane taking place. Everybody was paying attention. I mean, we have these hurricanes so much more frequently now, and just the federal government is repeatedly responding in an incredibly inadequate manner, almost intentionally so. And like you said, you have these Helene survivors basically being evicted, thousands of them being evicted by FEMA with nowhere to go. So I'm curious, how is the Helene Survivors Committee mobilizing to fight these evictions and demand full relief? Are there avenues to try to protect people from getting thrown into the streets, like you said, in the cold?
Yeah. So, every day we're out here organizing. We're going to hotels. We're speaking to the majority that we can get to. I think we've been to a total of 36 hotels out of 47 total in Western North Carolina. And just getting some outreach as much as possible, getting resources to these people. Like a lot of them are elderly and disabled. A lot of them can't do for themselves. And so getting resources out, getting some food resources, whether it's that or financial, and those who have been already thrown out, getting assistance with keeping them in the hotels for as long as possible until we can hear back something from FEMA, until we can figure out another situation for them to go into. And it's dwindling down. The community can't keep the community up for so long, but it's just tragic. It really is. There should be definitely more assistance needed. Today we actually went to FEMA. We went to them at the mall and was thrown out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. No. Can you describe what do you mean thrown out? Like, what was the interaction? Sorry, describe that.
Yeah, this just happened. So we walked into the mall. We went and said, "Hey, we're here from the Helene Survivors Committee. We're just trying to get some answers because we're hearing a couple different things come from y'all." And as soon as she heard Helene Survivors Committee, it was like, hang on. She called her boss or whoever supervisor she had talked to, and she was like, "All right, well, they're going to reach out to y'all specifically. Y'all can go ahead and leave." And we're like, "You can't answer no questions?" No, they'll reach out to you and they will give you the information that you're seeking. And it was that was it. Like closed door, no nothing. Like just shut down.
Wow.
And we're talking for the community. Like this is the people that you're throwing out in the streets, and we're here for that. And you can't give any assistance whatsoever. Like I'm not coming for me. I'm not coming for an individual assistance. Like this is masses of people that you're throwing out in the streets, and you're going to deny speaking to me or any of us from the group.
I mean, it's honestly shocking because, of course, these are the same people who say that they're, there for everyone and they want the rest of the country to think that they're backing you. And, obviously we've seen not only what happened with Helene, also, of course, what's happened recently with the wildfires in LA, also Hurricane Milton as well in Florida and different places. I mean, do you see any connection between these different pieces and the lack of response and perhaps not even just the lack of response, but the fact that, these disasters happen? I mean, I can remember Hurricane Katrina, so well. And it just seems like everyone knows these things are going to happen, and there still seems to never be anything proper put in place.
Yeah, no, you're right. And that's one of the first things I said when Hurricane Helene hit was when Hurricane Katrina came, because I also lived through it. it was almost like not immediately, but they had FEMA trailers set up. And I mean, my sister still lived in one 5 years ago, and I feel like that was an adequate response. Maybe it didn't work out for everybody, but where were any of those here? You had people donating campers, you had people giving their own things to victims here. But FEMA promises all these promises, and the only thing I can see that's the same is they're not. They're not. They have 220 million was supposed to have given to the city of Asheville and here in North Carolina. There's a good significant amount given to LA wildfires. I have not seen any money being put into the recovery reliefs for Asheville. And even when I was in LA this past week, I didn't see any money being put towards the recovery reliefs there. So FEMA just does not do their job, honestly, I don't feel like at all. In any situation. It's just to make the homeless more homeless.
Can you just, I think that with these kinds of events, everybody pays attention when the fire's going and when the hurricane's coming. And then, a few days after the damage, whether it's water damage or, whether like a house has been blown away. But then, of course, the cameras go away and you're left with the aftermath. And this was God, I'm losing track of time. This was like a couple months ago at this point.
Yeah,
okay, so a few months ago at this point, wow. So can you just kind of paint us a picture of what's happening on the ground where you are in terms of the aftermath of this? You mentioned people living in hotels. What is the situation with their houses? And when you talk about people living in hotels, what does that look like? What does that mean in terms of people being able to work or afford to be able to buy groceries or all the things that come with having to let your life upended for months and months and months later?
Yeah, so a lot of people here at this hotel, some, I think very few do work. Most are elderly or disabled. But as far as resources going and getting any groceries or anything like that, a lot of them lost their vehicles or cars. So they don't really have those resources. And that's one of the things that we've been trying to get out here. Immediately after the hurricane, you had FEMA, you had the Red Cross coming out, and you had these mobile stations that they had set up so that you could receive this, you could get medical aid, you could, whatever you needed, get your laundry washed. And here at the hotel, it's a little more difficult. You got to find a ride. You have to ask somebody that you don't even know to hopefully give you a ride to the grocery store down the street, or you either walk. And it's honestly sad, but as far as working, I know for me, I just personally got a job right here at Cracker Barrel just so I could walk to work, just because it's close by. But there are hotels that have kicked people out during all of this. There's one here in Asheville that wanted to get back to their normal everyday routine with their rich folk and their tourists. And so they kicked people out on FEMA vouchers. And it was that should be illegal. That should be entirely illegal, because now these people lost their homes or and you mentioned they're not everybody did own a home. They were renters. A lot of these people were renters, whether they rented an apartment or they rented a house. And most of the ones that we've spoken to have said that inspectors have come in and they've inspected the house per se, but not just their specific room that they're doing their FEMA application on. And so they're getting overlooked, or they're getting, the house is fine and the room must be fine too, so I'm going to put it that it's habitable, when in reality it's not. That's the lack of, I guess, I don't even know what the word would be, honestly, but it's sad. It's honestly sad that the inspectors can't do their jobs, and these people are not getting the help now.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the focus is really just get back to normal, not make sure people's, lives are put back together. Let me just ask you this before we let you go. I mean, you've talked about the Helene Survivors Committee, some of what you all are doing. Is there a place people can go to learn more, to support you, whatever it may be?
Yeah, definitely. It's Helene-Survivors.org, I believe. I think that's it. Just go sign a petition. The petition, it goes straight to our Region 4 FEMA directors, and demanding that we need housing, we need assistance, and we're not going to stop fighting until we get it. We're going to continue doing our everyday, day-to-day outreach and request assistance and demand assistance until it gets here. I don't know if y'all knew, but when we went to the city council meeting to look and listen to what their plans were with this $220 million, they were talking about a 3-year business development plan, not recovery reliefs. So we're going to still fight every day, whether it's reaching out or it's going to the city council meetings. And if anybody wants to join, come on out. come on out and help speak for your community. We all need it.
Right on. Well, we really appreciate it. We'll continue to cover this. Oh, sorry, lost you there. Anyway, just wanted to thank you, Maryjo Tucker with the Helene Survivors Committee. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank y'all for having me.